The Annapurna Express, 5th of April 2024, does a geopolitical trap set by China for Nepal already exist? Using armies that it has supported, China has invaded Nepal, where communist ideology and broken promises have undermined people's ability to exercise their free will. Three major world powers, Nepal, China, India, and the United States, have been at odds during the past few years. These nations compete for influence in Nepal's military, economic, intellectual, and technological domains. Let's start with the U.S. One of the top concerns of the U.S. Biden administration abroad is the advancement of democracy. Nepal seems to be at the top of the U.S. democratic projects list for South Asia. The U.S. has invited the Prime Minister of Nepal to its yearly democracy meeting, which was attended by prime ministers from both communist and non-communist countries. The U.S. is working to maintain democratic ideals in the area and counteract the influence of the Chinese Communist Party in Nepal. While this is going on, the U.S. is also concerned about the power of the Bharatiya Janata Party, BJP, in India, which is advocating for the reinstatement of a Hindu state in Nepal. According to a U.S. paper, security cooperation, notably with the United States, is prone to political intervention due to the Nepali political class's tendency to balance relations with its giant neighbors, India and the People's Republic of China, PRC. China has been spreading its political model abroad despite assertions to the contrary. It is not exporting its failed Chinese communist ideology, but it has been exporting its ideology to South Asian nations while disguising its accomplishments. Chinese officials are pushing Nepali peers to adopt the Chinese model, especially those who subscribe to communist ideology. China showcases its development model by inviting many communist leaders from Nepal to its cities each year. Recently, there has been a rising acceptance of the Chinese model in Nepal, as seen by the statements made by authorities there that their country can emulate the model. India and the U.S. hold different opinions regarding democratic values in South Asia despite agreeing on several topics. India, meanwhile, is delivering mixed messages in terms of ideology. While the Indian government appears dedicated to maintaining Nepal's inclusive constitution, democracy, and secularism, the ruling BJP has misgivings about its 2015 constitution since it believes Western ideals heavily influence it. With goals centered around Hinduism, the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, the BJP's parent organization, attempts to influence both the political parties and the general public. Through such initiatives, the BJP hopes to weaken Western influence in Nepal, undermine secularism, and reinstate the Hindu state. Already, these actions are dividing Nepal's political establishment. Nepal is battling ideological conflicts and geopolitical threats from powerful nations. China's interactions with Nepal are dominated by its debt-ridden Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, and insistence on the One China policy. In a similar vein, China's Global Development Initiative, GDI, Global Civilizational Initiative, GCI, and Global Security Initiative, GSI, are gaining ground on economic concerns. For more than 50 years, Nepal has continuously reaffirmed its support for the One China policy. China, however, does not appear to be persuaded and consistently requests reaffirmation of the One China policy. Following Prime Minister Pushpa Kamal Dahal's visit to China in September last year, a press release reaffirmed Nepal's unwavering position opposing Taiwan's independence. When he visited China last month, his new foreign minister, Narayan Kaji-Shrestha, expressed the same opinion. Despite China's constant emphasis on the Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, at various summits, real progress in developing infrastructure under the BRI's auspices has not yet been made. Politicians, government officials, and foreign policy experts agree that Nepal must exploit China's economic expansion. However, this dream hasn't yet come true because both nations are paying much attention to strategic issues. High debt, High-interest Chinese investment in Nepal is increasing, and the two countries' collaboration has grown recently. Still, significant investment projects that have the potential to spur economic growth are yet unfulfilled. Instead, Nepal's primary focus is ensuring its land isn't being utilized for anti-Chinese actions. The Chinese side has occasionally complained about the challenges its investors in Nepal face concerning Chinese investment. Nepal argued over whether to accept the $500 million grant from the U.S. government's Millennium Challenge Corporation, MCC, for 4 years. At last, the MCC projects are being carried out. However, the project is not progressing at the intended rate. Many blame the government's shoddy dedication to these initiatives for the poor pace. China's adamant opposition to the initiatives that classified them as belonging to the Indo-Pacific Strategy (IPS) contributed to this muted response. Politicians, bureaucrats, and professionals in Nepal still have difficulty understanding the U.S. strategy toward Nepal in light of the IPS. After the IPS was discussed, the U.S. government's State Partnership Program (SPP) became increasingly focused in Nepal. The government of Nepal, led by Sher Bahadur Deuba of the Nepali Congress, decided not to join the SPP in response to internal pressure, and they issued a letter to that effect to the U.S. administration. U.S. investors interested in investing in Nepal have recently shown a noticeable increase in interest. However, despite a significant rise in U.S. support through USAID, Nepal has not yet successfully addressed this interest. This indicates that Nepal has already been drawn into the geopolitical trap set by China. Due to the big country's emphasis on their security and geopolitical interests, Nepal is not seeing many investments in industries that are considered priorities. Even though Nepal advocates for further economic cooperation, bilateral discussions and public debate are dominated by strategic concerns. Creating jobs, reducing the effects of climate change, and financial recovery are currently Nepal's top priorities, yet, because of geopolitical tensions, these concerns are taking a backseat in negotiations with global nations. Regarding the IPS, the BRI, and other strategic undertakings, Nepal has found it challenging to adopt a definite position. The nation is plagued by internal political instability. Even though the administration should focus on managing these difficulties, Nepalese society is gradually being polarized due to geopolitics. Nepal must work together to reduce internal strife and develop a strategy to protect its interests in the face of international power battles.